Oh my gosh, I'm alive. Okay. This is my first live stream video. I was washing my hair today and then I just got this random urge to just film film a video. And I haven't done this in like 2 years, I think was the last time I posted a YouTube video. But I'm trying to just get into this space where I'm like embracing scrappy action and just doing things as they come to me, like following the nudges, following the urges. And I've also been thinking about live streaming just because, and we're going to talk about this today because I have a whole topic, but the perfectionism thing, like I know for a fact if I sit down and like pull out my camera, get my ring light and start trying to film a video, it's not going to happen. Like I'm going to probably spend 30 years trying to edit it and make it perfect. So this feels like it could work because I can't edit this while I'm talking. I don't know if I could edit it after, but I'm most likely not going to. So it's going to be a what you see is what you get type of thing. Okay. So today I want to talk about something that has been heavily on my mind and my heart, which is indecision. Yes. I want to talk to you about it because I feel like, especially for a lot of us women, it's something that can really hold us back and keeps the gap wide open between where we are and where we would like to be. When I think of my dream woman, like that dream version of myself, she's not mulling over small details and petty things and like figuring out, is this the right way? Is that the right way? Should I do this? Should I do that? She's like out in the world making things happen and taking action. So I'm starting to think about the ways that I can start to bring that into my own life and start being that woman today. So you're like watching me live processing this and going through this. So, yeah, we're going to talk about indecision. I feel like the lesson that is coming to me in this moment is that we always end up right back where we started. And I don't want to say always and turn it into a blanket statement just in case I change my mind, but it's starting to feel true. I think that I'm noticing like a lot of creative ideas that I had 2 or 3 years ago are now becoming things that I'm thinking about doing again or thinking about iterating on or creating again. Um, and the more I think about that, I'm starting to wonder if that's true, then I think it's safe to say that sometimes the first idea that we have is the best idea. And if that's true, then I think that means that it's safe for us to give into our intuition and just give it more credit. And for me, intuition, that inner knowing, that inner voice, that's what to me that's God. Like that's God speaking to me, giving me guidance. And with all that being said, I think the new goal that I'm starting to have for myself is to just take the steps. Take the steps, take the action, and just trust that God fills in the gaps. Like, God will give me the words, God will give me the strength. Like, it doesn't all have to come from me. And knowing that, I think, is comforting and it's also empowering when it comes to taking action. So, the first thing, where does indecision even come from? The primary reason and the primary source for so much of this for so many of us, I think, is a fear of failure. We don't want to be seen doing the wrong things or making mistakes publicly, and because of that we try so hard to plan everything out in advance so that we aren't caught making a mistake or looking dumb to other people. That's definitely something that's held me back from taking action and creating things, especially publicly, especially with the nature of things like TikTok and things going viral so quickly and everything being so shareable. It's so easy to get caught up in that fear of like, what if someone sees this or what if someone doesn't like it and what would they say? But I don't think any successful, highly visible person is doing things with that in mind. You can't. you're not going to make progress. You're never going to achieve the things that you want to achieve if you're always constantly worrying about what other people are going to say. And as harsh as it sounds, like you can't take people's opinions to the bank. It's not going to pay the bills. It's not going to give you sustenance. It can't feed you. It can't satiate you. So when you really think about it, it just becomes non essential. And I'm saying that to myself as well because I fall victim to that thinking sometimes, but so what? Like, who really cares what other people have to say? At the end of the day, it's just so inconsequential. And I would rather look back at my life knowing that I actually gave myself the opportunity, gave myself the chance to go after the things that I care about and after the things that I'm interested in and actually seeing how far I could take it versus sitting in my house, mulling over stuff, worrying about what other people have to say. And also, when you're online, like say, I'm just thinking from the lens of creating content and creating videos like this. When you're online and you're on TikTok and you come across someone's video that you might know, are you really sitting there and being like, wow, she is so dumb. I cannot believe she really sat down and recorded that video and posted it. I don't think you're doing that. I think most likely you're just gonna scroll by. Well, I hope you're not, because that's not nice, but I would assume that you're just gonna scroll past it and not really think too much of it. Or even if you did have an opinion like that, you're not gonna think twice about it 30 minutes from that moment. So when we zoom out, I believe this is called a spotlight effect. Like we as humans think that people are paying way more attention to us than they actually are. People are thinking about their own lives and their own problems and what they have to do and what their goals are. They're not sitting there thinking about you and overanalyzing your every move. Well, at least not if they are sound mentally and emotionally. So, with that in mind, I think it just gives us so much more freedom to just live, just move. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. The other thing that holds us back is perfectionism. That is another huge source of indecision. And I think I slightly touched on this, but we just want, especially as women, we want everything to be perfect before we put it out there because we think that that's going to free us from the potential for criticism. But the truth is, you can only control yourself. You cannot control what other people do. You cannot control what other people say about you. So, spending the time mulling over details, tweaking things 150 times before you even allow yourself to put it out there is actually holding you back from learning the lessons that you need to learn in order to improve. The best way to learn is to do. You learn from experience. The best feedback you're going to get is from other people. And it's not to say that you need to deeply internalize it, but you can't really teach yourself those things. Sometimes it does need to come from a source outside of you. And I know that we can be so precious over our ideas because creation in itself is an act of vulnerability. Getting up and sharing your opinion or sharing your thoughts and perspective on a public platform is vulnerable. You open yourself up to the opinions of other people, you open yourself up to the eyes of other people. Doing this in its essence is allowing yourself to be seen. And if that's something that you have a lot of sensitivity towards, it can be scary. But the only way out is through. The only way out is through. And if you never give yourself the opportunity, there is no way for you to get an opportunity. Yeah, as simple as that sounds, like if you do not give yourself the chance to be seen, there's no way anyone can see you. There's no way anyone can extend you that offer, that next step, that dream that you might be praying over. It's not just gonna like fall in your lap without you actually taking that first step. Like when people say, I would always hear people say, you need to walk by faith. And I'd be like, okay, I am, right? But it wasn't until like 2 days ago that I realized in order for you to be walking by faith, you actually have to walk. Like You can't just sit there and say, like, oh, one day this will happen for me. Oh, one day, like, sure, maybe one day, but you actually need to take the first step and make the first move in order to kick things into motion. Like, I just believe that we kind of have to meet God halfway, like, do your part and be open to being led. So, I think that perfectionism is essentially antithetical to that process. You need to move, you need to put yourself out there, and you need to be open to the opinions of others, good or bad, and learn to not internalize it, learn to depersonalize it, and understand that it has literally nothing to do with you. Like, other people's opinions are a reflection of where they are and what they're thinking, what their experiences are. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them and their own projections and sometimes their own insecurities. So just keep that in mind and try not to personalize it. The other source of indecision is a lack of clarity on your goals and your values. And this is something that has definitely impacted me a lot. I'm someone who has a lot of ideas. Like, I am an idea machine generator. Like, I have a lot of ideas and I have a lot of things that I think are cool and things that I want to do and accomplish and visions that come into my heart and into my mind. And I think that's beautiful. I think I've noticed at least a lot of the women in my life and women that I see online or come across. It's a common trait, I think, that a lot of us women have to just be a source for inspiration and creativity, but there needs to be a sense of balance that accompanies that. Like, it's great to have the ideas, but you also need to have structure in place for you to actually map things out and bring them to fruition. And that's something that I'm definitely going to touch on in later videos and in upcoming content, just creating those structures and systems for you to actually accomplish your goals. But having that understanding of what your goals are and what it is that you're actually looking to accomplish, and your values, which are the things that are fundamentally important to you as a person, as a woman, really, it's going to save you so much time and energy. I think when we don't have clarity on these things, we end up in situations that could have been avoided, or the amount of time that we spent in them could have been much shorter. I think I have something. Oh, this is flipped. Like, okay. Yeah, the amount of time that we could have spent in those situations could have been cut down like 20-fold had we had a clearer understanding of what it is that we want for ourselves, what's important to us, um, and just a clear sense of self, I think, is the most important thing. Understanding who you are, what you want, what you're about, and what matters to you. That's going to save you so much time. It's going to prevent you from starting projects that are misaligned, accepting jobs and opportunities that are misaligned, dealing with people, whether that's like platonically or romantically, that are fundamentally misaligned. Get clear on what it is that you want. And you don't have to have your whole life figured out. I think that is also a source of stress for me personally at times. Like, I feel like I need to have my whole life figured out, and it can get you it can cause you to feel stuck because you can't see that far into the future, and I think it's okay to accept that. Um but at least in the near term, gaining that understanding of what's important to you, what fundamentally matters to you, is going to save you a lot of time. And then information overload. This is critical, especially in this age of TikTok, short form video, where everyone's attention span has been reduced significantly to a matter of seconds. We are at a point in history where I don't think we've ever had this much access to information and to the lives of other people. It is at an all-time high. I think this can be a great thing, because it increases the amount of exposure that we have to new ideas and concepts. But at the same time, if you're not careful, if you're not discerning, it can leave you vulnerable to one, comparison, and then two, just going back to what we were just talking about, stalling. You start to research what other people are doing. If you're interested in starting a project, you're looking up what other people are doing in that space to get inspiration. We need to talk about that. There's like a fine line between doing research and stalling. It's great to get inspired. It's great to get ideas from other people and get a sense of what's happening in the space so that you know how to fall into it and where you fit and maybe what you want to say, what you want to add. But if you are constantly just sitting at home on your phone, scrolling day in and day out and telling yourself, oh, one day I'll do this, one day I'll start this project, you're never going to start the project. I can tell you that for free because I've done it. I've done that like 20 million times. And you're always going to be looking at what other people are doing and trying to almost shrink yourself in a way that allows you to fit into their frame, when you need to be thinking about how to create your own frame and trusting your ideas and opinions and intuition enough to know that you do have something unique to say and you can do it. And it is safe for you to just start and figure things out as you go. You can't, not that you can't, you can. You absolutely can use other people as a reference point to map out your whole journey, but then you're always dependent on their next move. You're always dependent on them posting their next video or waiting for the next trend to pop up in culture in order for you to feel secure about what it is that you have to say and what it is that you have to do. Getting clear and grounded in your own values is going to help you become your own source of inspiration. And I think that fundamentally is the most important game-changing thing that you can do, because you're operating from your internal source that never runs out. So you will never run out of ideas. You will never run out of creativity because you are now the channel. You are now the muse. You are now the source of inspiration for yourself. And that, I think, is the sweet spot. The next thing I want to talk about is why we tend to flip-flop on ourselves. And I think this comes from a sense of internal conflict between our desires and our fears. We can very well know what it is that we want to do, what it is that we want for our lives, the visions that we have. A lot of us girls, if you're like me, I didn't like vision boards before. Like my cousin, she hosts a vision board party where you actually have to like physically make the board. Like she invited all her friends over and we sat there and we made the boards. And before we started, I was like not into it. I'm like a digital girl, like I love a little Canva board, like something cute I can just throw up on my phone. But actually sitting down and like making the vision board, I enjoyed that process, like watching it come to life. So I think vision boards are cool. I think it's really helpful for you to have those visual cues. But again, there's this fine line between our desires, what we want to accomplish, and giving over to fear. And I think that it's great to have the ideas. It's great to have the visual cue, but if we don't unpack the feelings and the fear around our goals, around stepping into these bigger versions of ourselves or these chapters in our lives that require more of us, if we don't get to the bottom of that and start to understand what it is, where it's coming from, again, we're never going to feel fully secure enough to take continuous action and continue stepping into the unknown, because we're always going to be going back to the what ifs. What if I'm wrong? What if this is not the right idea? What if this is not the right next step for me? You're always going to be flip-flopping on yourself. So I do think that's important to call out. And then again, just not trusting our intuition, if you don't if you don't trust the source of that deep voice, it's not a wanting thing. It's like a knowing feeling. Like when you have that idea, that vision that keeps coming back to you and coming back to you, and there's a voice inside of you telling you to act on it, and you keep ignoring it, you're dampening that self-trust, that relationship with yourself. And if you cannot trust God and then yourself, basically, because I feel like that is how the relationship is working. If you can't do that, it's going to be impossible for you to not only trust other people, but just be productive, because you're always going to be wondering about whether you're wrong or right, whether you're taking the right step, whether you're going to be stuck. Like you're always going to have this sense of insecurity and this feeling of being unsettled. I'm realizing that's like very crucial. So I think those two things are very important to unpack before you even start taking action. It's like getting to the core of where your fears are coming from and why you feel so afraid, and building the muscle of trusting that voice and trusting that you are being led and that you are on a very intentional, well designed path. Those are going to help with the flip flopping. How long has this been? Wow, 21 minutes. Do you guys know? Before I started doing this, I was so afraid that I wouldn't know what to say and that I would get stuck, because every time I've tried to sit down and like film a traditional video with my camera, I would always be so like anxious and like nervous about what I'm talking about. But now I feel good because I'm clearly talking like off the dome for 20 minutes. Like that is an accomplishment. And I'm like so early in the outline. So we're going to be going for a little while. But I don't think that's a problem. I actually feel really good about this and really accomplished. So shout out to me. Okay, anyways. Okay. So back to the topic. I noticed that indecision is something that affects women who are my target audience. My target audience is women, especially those of you who identify as high achievers or overachievers or type A individuals. I really want to speak to you through my work. Because we have a lot of unpacking to do about how these things pour over into other areas of our lives. But how indecision impacts women. I see this come up in a variety of ways, and the first is societal conditioning. I realize that a lot of us women are conditioned to be people pleasers and often prioritize the needs of others over our own, which is not wrong. It's kind and it's very honorable to be able to prioritize someone else's needs over yours. I think that that is a really beautiful thing that really helps you to become an evolved just woman of good nature and good character, but there has to be a balance, because I do think that when we fall too far right or too far left, whichever direction, but just diving into that too deeply, it can make it very difficult for you to assert yourself and make decisions, especially if the decision that you feel like you need to make is not the popular one. It's going to make it very hard for you to step out on your own and follow your own truth, especially if you're in a crowd that's going in the opposite direction. Because again, you don't have that deep level of self trust. You don't feel like it's safe for you to trust yourself. And I realize that society does condition a lot of us women to fall victim to that trap. And so I do notice that is one way that indecision is impacting us women. The other, I need some water. The other thing which we talked about is perfectionism. So I think that overall in society, we do see that there's a standard for women to be perfect. And a lot of that manifests in our outer beauty and how we present ourselves to the world, what our interests are, how we dress. There is this like subliminal expectation for us to be perfect, whatever that means for wherever you are, like wherever you are culturally or whatever subgroup that you belong to. So with that pressure coming at us externally, there is a fear of, there is a fear of being wrong or making the wrong decision or being ostracized from that subgroup. And I think with that, it lends itself to overthinking and analysis paralysis. Next is imposter syndrome. So a lot of women struggle with self-doubt and question their abilities. And that leads to a lot of hesitancy when it comes to decision making, again, because you lack self-trust. So you don't believe that you are in the right place or doing the right thing or trust that you are capable enough to do what you're doing because you're doubting yourself. You're not trusting yourself. You're always questioning. Next is just general balance. A lot of us women, especially the high achievers, the type A girlies, we tend to do a lot and have to balance a lot. We're balancing our family lives, our social lives, our spiritual lives, our personal lives, work, family, yada yada, all these things that we're doing simultaneously in order to show up as this one unique person. Like a lot of us have the I woke up like this ideology down packed. Like you present yourself in this very put together way that implies a sense of effortlessness to the unknowing eye. But little do people know you have a lot going on. You have a lot that you're doing and a lot that you're pouring into at any given moment. So balancing all of that. Um, it can lead to overwhelm really and just like lacking the mental space to make concrete effective decisions. So I'm not going to go too deep on that. We can maybe talk about that another day, but learning to strike a balance is really important when it comes to indecision. And then lastly is just the comparison trap. As I mentioned earlier, we're in a time where we just have so much access, too much access, I think. That's my hot take, too much access to the lives of other people and the opinions of other people and what other people are doing and what other people have. So when you're constantly consuming this other things that are coming from the outside of yourself, you start to develop ideas about what it means to have it all. And I think that it can just really create this sense of inadequacy where you just don't feel like you're enough and you don't feel secure in the decisions that you're making and what it is that you think that you want and what the choices are that you want to make for your own life. So the comparison trap, it's a big one. It's a big one. I think that's another thing we probably need to talk about later on. But just in terms of solutions, I have a few things that I wrote down that I think are really helpful when it comes to indecision. And because this is my first video in a long time, I do just want to make it clear like the things that I suggest are things that I actually have tried or am in the process of trying. So we're basically on a journey together. And this is a journey that I don't think ever ends. Like if you are really invested in becoming the best version of yourself, you know that you never really reach the destination. Like you're always going to move the goalpost every time you achieve something new or you unearth something new about yourself. And I think that is fun. Like that's what makes life fun to me. So yeah, I have a few solutions and a few tips that I think could be helpful. So the first one is to level up your standard of progress. Yeah. I think it can sound a little harsh, but I think this goes back to what I was talking about with the whole research thing. I feel like the light has changed like 20 times. It's like going back and forth between raining and being sunny where I am. So that's what's going on. But yeah, I think it can sound a little harsh, But I think it goes back to what I was talking about with the whole research thing. When you're trying to start a project, what I do now is if I have a list of to-dos, research can't be on the list anymore. So it's either that I'm giving myself a set amount of time to do that, or it just doesn't count as progress. So let me give you an example. Say I'm creating a graphic to post on Instagram. I can either give myself 5 minutes to do it, or if I spend a long time doing it, it doesn't go on my list of to-dos or things that I accomplished that day. And that's not to say that it's not important, because obviously you need to do these things in order to get things done, in order to get the asset or the graphic or whatever project you're working on out there. You need to spend some time in the creative phase. But for me, I noticed that I spend so much time trying to get it to be perfect and look like a graphic designer made it. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl with creative ideas who wants to share the ideas with the world. So, me spending 80 hours on things that are outside of my wheelhouse, my areas of expertise, is not really beneficial to me, because I'm not doing the actual thing that I want to do, which is share my message, right? I'm just putting a lot of effort into something that is meant to amplify the message, which means that it's secondary. It's not the primary area of focus. So basically, what I'm saying is we need to prioritize and start looking at the things that we're doing that are actually moving the needle and put our energy there. And the things that are secondary to that mission that are not as important, just like decrease the amount of energy and effort that we're putting into those areas. So still do them, but just stop wasting so much time. I'm sorry if that was like tough love, but I feel like it really is a time waster. And it really, like, for me, I have had moments where I've like just looked back on months of me not doing anything. Or it seems like I'm not doing anything publicly because I haven't published anything. But on the inside, on my side, I know that I've been working. And I have been working, but I just haven't been working smart. And my goal for all of us here on this channel, in this community, is for us to work smart and to actually put things out that we're proud of. And the only way for us to do that is if we act and publish. Act and publish. Those are our words for the year or the foreseeable future. Um, yeah. And then at the same time, with me doing that, I also make a point of celebrating myself. And celebrating yourself does not mean that you necessarily have to buy anything or go anywhere. Sometimes celebrating yourself is just you affirming yourself, speaking kind words to yourself, and giving yourself a pat on the back for a job well done. Like, I'm going to celebrate myself for posting this video because it's not something that I would have done previously, and I'm enjoying myself, and I feel like I'm sharing valuable information. So I'm going to celebrate myself after I publish this. But one of the best ways to make habits stick, and I believe this is in, Atomic Habits, that's where I learned this. Rewards help habits to stick. You need to make things that you currently find undesirable, desirable, or attractive to your brain, or else you're not going to do them, because what is the reason? There's no reason, right? So it can be a small gift, you know? Maybe if you go to your workout class for 2 weeks in a row, you get to treat yourself to an expensive smoothie that you wouldn't normally buy. Like something like that that you are working towards, so that you don't give up on yourself, because it is uncomfortable for you to pick up new habits and new ways of thinking and new ways of living. Like adopting these new paradigms is hard. It's not easy. So you want to give yourself incentives to keep going so that you build trust in yourself and the process and the journey, whatever it is that you're on. So definitely celebrate yourself. If you don't want to buy yourself something, you should be doing this anyway. Make sure you're speaking kind, loving words over yourself, because that also really does help to rewire your subconscious and the way that you think about yourself and your own capabilities. I think that's really important. And then just checking off the micro actions, the micro movements that you're making towards your goals. Checking those off. If you have a to-do list, I'd be faking my to-do list, okay? I will put 30 intermediary steps in the one goal that I have. Like, it just makes you feel like you did so much more because you're doing stuff, right? Like, you should celebrate that. So if you can check off 10 things as opposed to one big thing, it makes you feel like you did a lot more. So that's just a little brain hack that I think is helpful. So say we'll do an example. Say you're building a business and you want to launch your first product. So you're going to want to break that down into actionable steps. You're going to do some market research, competitor research. You're going to look for your manufacturers. You're going to build a business name and build your branding. So rather than making the goal launch a business, launch my candle company, you're going to take each of those steps that I just mentioned, and then you're going to write down every single step that is required for you to accomplish those steps. That way, you're checking off, you need to be checking off 1,000 things, not literally. Okay, well, maybe, I don't know. Do you? But that is just gonna, it's just gonna make you feel so good, and it's gonna build up so much confidence because you really feel like you're just doing the damn thing. Like, you are just accomplishing things. And for you to actually physically be able to see it, because a lot of us mentally downplay our accomplishments and our capabilities. So you physically seeing all the things that you've done, that is like such an easy way to start boosting your confidence. So try that. Next, exposure therapy. Best, best, best teacher. I can vouch for that. I have a bit of shyness around just like speaking in groups, and like presenting and like sharing my work. So I've had to like force myself into environments that just require me to do that. I think I even want to join like a public speaking group or something like that. Something scary that just forces me to do it, because once you do the thing, you realize you're basically sending a signal to your brain that it's not that scary. It's not going to kill you. You didn't die. So when you keep doing it, then you realize like, oh wait, actually, I don't need to have all this like funkiness and anxiety around this thing because it's really not that deep. And then you just do it really easily. So start small, build momentum, but you need to be like putting yourself right in the middle of the thing that scares you the most. Like that, as a woman, when you like realize that the things that you fear and that you feel like have power over you actually are not even powerful, that you're the power. So good. So good. So definitely, I think I would challenge you this week to find something that you find to be super, super scary and just do it. Like, just put yourself in it. Because once you're in it, you can't really back out. Like, I can't back out of this video. I've already been filming it for, I don't know, almost 40 minutes. So, yeah, I think exposure therapy, best teacher. That's like my number one tip, even though it was like number 3. Then going off of that is just to embrace the fear. Fear is just a signal. It's not a stop sign. Just because you get scared does not mean that you stop doing whatever you're meant to do. All that fear is like an evolutionary response to your body being outside of its comfort zone. So fear, anxiety is just basically meant to keep you safe and help you realize that you're like moving out of that equilibrium place that you've been so used to. But after you realize that, it's not useful, right? Because it's not really helping you or propelling you. It's just basically keeping you in the safe space that you've gotten used to. In order for you to really transform, you have to get out of that. So just take it for what it is. It's just a signal. And you now have the option and the power to reframe it and to move past that. So just speak to it. Speak to it in your body. Something that's really helpful for me is to just like ground myself physically. Like, this might sound weird, but this is like a real technique, like a psychological technique. Like, where is my body in space? My feet are on the ground. Like, just getting really rooted into where you are in the present moment physically, it helps you to kind of bring yourself out of any weird, unhelpful thought spirals. And you can also just affirm yourself, remind your body, remind your mind that it is safe, that you are safe, and that you don't need to be doing all of the hoopla and the mental gymnastics. I call it hoopla because that's how I feel when I have these negative thought spirals. Like, we don't need to do this. This is not a good use of our time, our energy, our resources. And if you feel like you can pull it back, that means you can pull it back. So pull it back. You have the power. And then the last thing, wait, is that the last thing? I think I have another tip. This is the second to last thing. Give yourself less decision time. There's so much power in the just do it mentality. I feel like that's why Nike made it the tagline. Just do it. Stop giving yourself days and weeks and months to do things. Like, okay, I'm not going to say a day because I don't know what it is that you're trying to do, but give yourself short periods of time. Make the deadline urgent, because we as humans, we give ourselves as much time as we have. We take as long as the amount of time that we have to complete a task. So if you give yourself 30 days, you're going to find ways subconsciously to make that task take 30 days when you probably could have finished it in 2 days. Right? That's why some people say they work well under pressure. No, you don't. It's just the urgency, because you know there's a deadline that you're working towards and you need to get this thing done, or else there's a consequence. So you can replicate that by just giving yourself less time to get things done. That's been super helpful to me. Timers are your best friend. If you're someone like me who is timeline and has very limited conception of how long things take, timers, schedules, hour by hour plans are really, really, really helpful for you to getting things done. So definitely try that. Um, yeah, I don't know, guys. I just really believe that the desires that we have on our hearts, the things that we really want to accomplish, the things that we feel are like our personal missions in this life, the things that just keep coming up over and over, no matter how much you try to push them away. I feel like we all have something like that. It could be big, it could be small, but I feel like we all have something like that. And I want to see you guys accomplish it. I want to see myself accomplish it. Like, that's why I'm here. And I just feel like as a woman, like having that relationship with God, that source that is just so much bigger than you, that like knows more than you do, can see the things that you can't see, even when you're like in the middle of like this weird, funky period of your life where things just like don't make sense. Speaking to myself, hello, because I feel like that's where I am. Just having that knowledge that that relationship is there is so freeing and comforting. Like, I just feel like you all deserve so much more. I deserve so much more. We as women, we just deserve so much more than analysis, paralysis, indecision, anxiety. We deserve true peace and freedom. And I think that all of these things, like, it's just so helpful to be aware of. Like, fear is not productive, worry is not productive. There's a passage in the Bible, I literally read it this morning. It's Matthew 6:27. I wrote it down. It's like, which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? And that basically is like, worrying does not make you taller, doesn't help you live longer. It's not productive, it's not fruitful, it's not giving you anything. You can't make clear decisions from a point of confusion or anxiety. Like, your mind is not thinking rationally. So I'm just hoping that this information that I'm sharing can help you just really deeply accept and understand that it's not going to move you closer to what it is that you want, that thing that's on your heart that you just want to pull off and accomplish. So just try to get a handle on it. I don't want to say just stop because I know it's not that simple, but like it's just not productive. And I just want to make that really clear. And then the last tip, this is the best tip. Actually, it might be the second. I don't know. It's a good tip. Log off. Log off. And that's just not, it's not just applicable to social media. It's applicable to anything in your life that is not serving your highest purpose. Just log off. Become unavailable for it. And I think social media is definitely a big one because it's addictive. Even the devices are addictive. Like I find my phone to be addictive. I've started utilizing tools that help with like time management, screen time, blocking apps because I realize like all the time that I spend scrolling and consuming the lives of others, that is energy that I could be pouring into myself, getting to know myself better, building a better relationship with myself, working towards my goals, actually accomplishing things. Like, time is so precious. You do not get the moments back after they pass. So, just keep that in mind. And also, you just need to tune out the noise. Like, in order for you to really just go deep and accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, you need to tune out the noise and figure out what is it that I truly want, independent of these outside sources, independent of what this person thinks or what this person does. What do I think and what do I want to do? Because that's when you're really going to see those shifts and those changes when you get clear on what you think is right, what you want to do, and you do it your own way, not in someone else's way. And in order to do that, I think sometimes you really just need to go through those periods where you're just like just blind to everything that's going on in pop culture, everything that's going on in the media, and just go so deep on you and figuring out yourself. So log off. That's my last solution. I think that was a good one to end with. And then just techniques to try. Big one, journaling. Yeah, I know. When I'm in my lazy girl era and mode, I'm not into that. Like I don't want to journal. I feel like it's like a lot of work, but I've been doing it a lot lately. Oh my gosh, it is so helpful. Like I feel like the synapses in your brain are just like and you just figure out so much and like everything just connects, the dots connect, things just start to make sense. So I highly recommend just putting it on a page. Even my mom has been telling me this, like just put it on a page because then you can even look back on it, like the things that you've been praying for when God answers and that thing moves. You can like see the very moment where you were like breaking out about it or like asking for clarity on things. So it's just really helpful and it also helps to like build your faith and confidence. So highly recommend. And I have a prompt. So try this prompt. If there is something that you are feeling indecisive about, right? And it's like a big thing, not like what should I eat for lunch, like a big life decision. We're going to do some like scripting and role playing for the two options. So if you had option A, what would you be doing? How would you feel? What changes would have occurred in your life? Basically, just write out all the details as though they were happening right now if you did option A. And then do the same for option B, right? Then, when you finish, read it back to yourself. That's going to help you to start visualizing the potential for those two outcomes and like getting clear on what that state would be in your future if you were to do it now, if you were to take either route A or route B. And I think that bringing that like visual element into it can help to bring some added clarity because now you know how your life would play out if you did that thing. And I think you intuitively will know whether you want to do option A or option B. And then the other question, I've been asking myself this a lot. If every decision were the right decision, if no one would get mad at me, like if everything would be okay and it was safe for me to make any decision that I wanted, what would I want to do? Ooh, and you can't think more than like 3 seconds. Just like write down the first thing that comes to your mind. Oh my gosh, so helpful. I just have this fundamental belief like you always know. You always know what you want to do. You're just afraid to do it. So just do that. Try it and see what comes up for you. And comment. Tell me what comes up, because I really want to talk about this, because I feel like it impacts so many of us women, especially those of us who just have a lot of dreams, goals, thoughts. So I just want to help you guys get some mental clarity, and I want that for myself too. And then the last thing we talked about, like vision boarding and stuff. I think those cues are helpful. I love one. I have one on my phone as my lock screen right now. It just helps to remind me like what the larger goal is, where I'm going, what I am working towards. So it can be pictures, it can be an affirmation, it can be one word. It's just a mental cue, something that brings you back to the larger picture, especially when you feel like things are just out of control and going in every direction. That is super, super helpful. So yeah, this was my first live stream. I thought I was going to be talking for like 10 minutes, and it's been 50 minutes. So that tells you something. Don't doubt yourself. You might be giving yourself way less credit than you're due. So just try it. Just try things, especially when they come up. This to me was like inspired action. Like I was just washing my hair, and then I was like, oh, I should film a video. And now I'm filming the video. So I feel good. Let's see where this takes my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, guys. So thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in if you're watching this video after the live stream. And just a reminder to be gentle with yourself this week. I feel like making a lot of these changes and being so personal development oriented, it can create some pressure for us sometimes. So just a reminder, indecision, it's something that we all face, but it's also something that we all have the power to overcome if we allow ourselves to. So allow yourself to overcome, allow yourself to win. Okay. And winning can be small. It can just be you taking that first step that you need to take in order to move towards your goal. So just keep that in mind. But I hope that helped. And if you're into like feminine, womanly embodiment topics, self development, mindset discussions, subscribe, because I enjoyed this and I want to have more discussions. And I hope that as this channel grows and I'm like live, maybe there'll be one day where they're like some of you in the comments and we're just chatting and discussing with each other. But then I'm also like, damn, if I talk for 50 minutes, like how long could I talk if we have a community? So let's get a community going. Like I feel like this could be a thing. I feel like this could be fun. So if you do catch this later on, I'd love for you to just leave a comment. Let's chat about what your biggest struggle has been with indecision lately, just in your life. What's coming up for you as you're watching this video, so we can chat about it and help each other and build a community here around personal development and just being our dream women, however that may look for us. So yeah. Before I go, I just wanted to share one quote that I saw. I believe it's from Nelson Mandela, but it felt super relevant. And it is, the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And I just want to leave you guys with that, because fear is something that we all experience. It comes up for all of us, but that's not the point. It's a human emotion. When you think of your heroes and the women that you look up to, don't think for a second that they're not afraid of something, or they've never had a moment where they were like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. I'm terrified. What if this doesn't work? It happens to all of us. It's human. That's part of our nature. But the people, the women who win, when I'm saying this, I'm just envisioning Beyonce, or like Michelle Obama. Like, the women who win are the ones that move in spite of that. They're the ones who take action, even though they don't know what's coming next, even though they don't know what they're doing. They just go for it. And I believe that if this video finds you somehow, some way, through the algorithm, internet world, whatever, it's because that's true for you too. So just be gentle with yourself and just keep stepping. Even though you don't know what's coming, just keep stepping. And I guarantee you, speaking this over myself too, like I guarantee like the pieces will just fall into place, and then you'll just look back on this moment and be like, wow, can't believe I did that. So yeah, this wraps up the live, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.